Hey there, fellow streakers. Jamie and I are excited to be with you today. We are going to discuss, of course, the 4th of July since it's happening, and also how that relates to friendships, shared experiences, and what you can do to set streaks in order to increase all of those friendships and happiness along the way. So, let's get streaking.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, how are you, Jamie?
I'm great.
Love this conversation. I always enjoy talking with you. And this one especially because it's kind of fun to think back on all of the different 4th of Julys that we've had.
I know this is. I have to tell you, I do love summer. I love summer, and 4th of July is one of my favorites. It's like the pinnacle of summer for me.
4th of July when I was growing up wasn't as magical as when I met you and your mom, because your mom just made the 4th of July absolutely a party for everyone. It was so much fun.
She did that. So that kind of started our marriage off in that way, because she, at that time, lived on the edge of a cul-de-sac, kind of, so to speak. And she hosted a big block party every 4th of July because she has this amazing gift of getting people together.
She really does. I mean, I remember that. So I forget who I was with, but I think it was Nick and I. We were launching water balloons over the house at people. We got in a little bit of trouble for that one because, but that was during one of those great block parties.
Yes.
That was the introduction to the 4th of July and how much fun it was. And we carried that on to where we started to have our own cul-de-sac parties.
So when we moved into a house that was, we moved into a house that was on a cul-de-sac, and what was great is because we had built this house, all the people on that cul-de-sac moved in at the same time. And so we had this experience of all moving in at the same time and becoming friends. And so I don't remember the very first 4th of July block party we had. You do? The very first one?
Very first one, Todd and Sue that lived across the street from us said, hey, we should do something for the 4th. And it was like totally informal, but Todd got out his boom box and put it on top of his car. And we just kind of went out in the cul-de-sac and chatted.
We probably grilled hamburgers.
We grilled some burgers and dogs. Yep. But it was pretty informal. Nothing like what then it turned into.
Over the years, every year had to be a little bit bigger and a little bit better.
And it was awesome.
So we started with the next year with the sound system.
Right. So I brought out the sound system.
The bigger sound system. And we would have a speaker on every corner of the cul-de-sac. And so music played the entire day. I think we started around noon.
It was actually earlier because I tried to start around noon, but everyone was like, no, we need to have it out there around 10 o'clock.
Because music is what makes an event. And so you would play music literally all day long, and I have to say, so Jeff is a DJ on the side. And one of his pet peeves, or one of his challenges as a DJ, is that he refuses to play the same song twice in any one setting.
Yeah, in one set. Yep.
And so when you're playing music from 10 a.m. until literally 10:30 at night.
10:30 at night, yeah.
That's a lot of songs. But what was great is there was a lot of genres that were represented throughout the day. And it created this ebb and flow because people would come in and out throughout the day as they were cooking or visiting. You'd kind of come in and out of the houses, and the music had a part of that, I feel like.
And it grew to the place where we one year had a huge pig fry. So
we actually grilled, or what is it called?
Well, it was smoked.
It was smoked a full-size pig.
Yeah, full-size pig.
With apple in its mouth. I will forever remember that because it was such a weird visual.
And then we had some of the neighbors get their Class C firework license. So then we started to be able to shoot fireworks that were full professional quality. And people would come from all over
the neighborhood,
line the entire streets, not even the community. It wasn't just our neighborhood.
As the years
it grew in such popularity that we had people lined the streets and then down around the streets from where the cul-de-sac was and into the park, because this was a huge party, and we'd synchronize it to the music.
Yes, because you did the music, and we had two of the neighbors that loved the fireworks, so they spent, and one friend that came because he was excited that we had a cul-de-sac that was so excited about it. But he actually had a firework budget that he budgeted every month all year long.
And folks, we're not talking a small firework budget. We're talking a large
was
firework
his
budget. We're talking
thing.
$5,000.
He would bring all of these fireworks. And then do you remember one year Megan did a bake sale?
Totally
so
remember.
We set up the canopy and we had baked for 4 days beforehand. And so she had all of these treats that she would sell to the kids all day long. And one year we did the inflatables with the inflatable water slide.
Yep. Well, actually, that started to be every year.
That's true.
We did the inflatables because
so
then we started to have the inflatables come. We did a 3-on-3 basketball tournament.
So it just ended up being an event all day long.
Yeah.
And each family would bring out their own grills and grill their food and invite all of their friends. By the end, it was quite... I remember the last one that we did before we moved, we partitioned everything off with that yellow caution tape.
Yes.
And there were so many people.
Oh, it was massive.
So many people.
Massive. It was, I remember there's always the moment between when the day's festivities are done. What I mean by that is the people came to get the water slides and cleared out the cul-de-sac. There was the moment between clearing out the water slides, we had dinner, or clearing the water slides out and having dinner, where it was just kind of a quiet, dead moment. And what I would do then is bring all the kids out and we do all the group dances in the cul-de-sac.
And sparklers.
And sparklers.
But
the other thing, too, which was really neat, is all of us we'd have the national anthem sung, and then we'd have a prayer as a cul-de-sac, a prayer of freedom for the entire cul-de-sac. And it was the neatest thing because we were all of different faiths, but we would have someone offer a prayer. And then we'd have this great, big, huge dinner. I mean, that was just massive.
Because everybody brought something to share.
Sides and desserts and all kinds of great foods. It's just all of these shared memories and experiences. And then it would get to the place where it was dark enough to where we would have the whole fireworks show. And the fireworks show, we would coordinate it to music. And it was emotional.
To Schoolhouse Rock one year.
Yes, we did.
And do you remember some of the other?
That was the year we got shut down. That was the year
I forgot about
that.
The following year is when we got
the Class C fireworks, right, which was great. But yeah, there was we did it to Battle Hymn of the Republic. We did it to one year I played the Independence Day speech.
Oh, that's right. I remember that one.
We started. We declare this as our Independence Day.
You guys watching fireworks after watching the Independence Day speech or in the moment, that was a very fun experience. So as we're talking about this, you might be wondering, like, why are they this fun trip down memory lane? But it has become, for so many of our kids, one of their favorite holidays.
It really has.
And the friendships that we look back on because of that shared experience. Because it started, like you said, so small, so simple, but it was fun. And a lot of us had little kids at the time, but each year then now our neighbors, all of us would get together and be like, well, what should we do for the 4th? Because many of these ideas weren't our ideas. The pig wasn't our idea. That was Todd and Sue.
Yeah.
The inflatable was
Brian and Ann.
And so everybody brought something to the table and was like, oh, we should do this. My kids would love this. And so we would coordinate and plan, and it just ended up being this experience that was magical, seriously, for our children and for our families.
So what Jamie and I got to thinking about is, what is it that causes or creates friendships? And how long does it take to make a friendship? And we started to look through different articles as far as what friendship is all about. And there were a couple of different ones that we found. One of the ones that I want to quote just a little bit from is the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships. This is Sage Journals. It's journals.sagepub.com. And the question is how many hours does it take to make a friend? And that's kind of an interesting question, right? Yeah. How many hours does it take? Is it 1 hour?
Can you create a mathematical equation for making a friend?
Right. So the whole idea here, and I'm just going to read a couple of things that they wrote in the journal here. Having friends is an important predictor of happiness and life satisfaction. The number and quality of social interactions early in life can predict loneliness, well-being, and depression 30 years later.
And isn't that interesting? Because that's when you read that, I did have in my mind, the experience of our children sharing that 4th of July each year with friends and family, and the food and the music and the excitement of it, and just that created this feeling of belonging and security, and I'm surrounded by people, and look, I'm happy here, recognizing not that everything was perfect all the time. I
No.
mean, you have little kids and they get in fights and people scraped knees, and
And some little kids run across the lawn buck naked all the way across the lawn,
we
back and
did
forth.
have
They do
that
true
one time.
streaking.
Yes.
We had one of our neighbors. He was just like,
He
there
just-
I go.
There I go. He was little. He was little. And I remember the one time too that we the water bill got a little extensive
Oh,
because
man,
we
it
ran
did.
the water that
All
whole day.
long.
But it was this shared experience that we loved.
Mhm.
And I do believe, as I've talked to our kids as they've gotten older, that they loved that experience.
Right. And that's where I look at, interestingly, on the study itself, that it's a predictor of happiness and life satisfaction.
And
That
years
having
later.
and years later, yeah, years and years. And it says, despite these well-documented benefits, people do not always prioritize spending time with friends. Interesting. When I read that, spending time with friends, it sounds like a luxury. Like, I don't have the time to do this because I'm busy trying to provide for life. And therefore, this luxury, it feels like, I don't know if I have time to do it.
Right.
Which is, I think, one of the things that this is bringing out. It says Americans only spend about 41 minutes a day socializing, which is 1/3 of the amount of time spent watching TV or commuting. Given significant constraints on free time, especially among working adults and parents, individuals must budget their time wisely to make time for friends.
Translation: you have to be intentional in creating friendships and shared experiences. That life gets busy, and our responsibilities are real. I mean, what did it talk about? Providing,
Right.
commuting, that's a real thing. And then when it talks about watching TV, I'm like, that's because oftentimes at the end of the day, you're tired and worn out, and being with people still expends an amount of energy sometimes.
Yeah.
I guess depending on if you're an introvert or extrovert. But if you're an introvert, being with people is an expenditure of energy.
Yes.
And so it can be something that you have to kind of
Yeah.
gear up
Usually
for.
when I get with people, I'm an extrovert. And so yeah, I'm tired going in, but man, it just I can keep right on going, and the energy builds through the night. It's really
Which for an
interesting.
introvert I have seen that in action.
Yeah.
And have been amazed by it. And I'm curious if a lot of people have watched the differences there, that an introvert, as the night goes on, you start to get tired. You're like, I'm done. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Whereas I've watched you as an extrovert start an evening absolutely trashed. And we were going because, like, you had traveled someplace out of the country. We had scheduled this before we knew that you were going to be taking this out of the country trip. We felt like, let's just go. We'll stay for a little bit, and then we'll leave early. And as the night wore on, you got more and more and more animated and happy. And I just remember watching that night and thinking, okay, that is by definition an extrovert. You are literally getting energy
Yes.
from being with these people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which was amazing to me
It
as
is
an
amazing.
introvert, where I
Right.
was like, wow.
Because you would because if you had been home all day and had all your energy built back up, then you would start the evening high.
High.
You'd be in there,
And as
you'd
the
be
night
enjoying
goes
it as the night
on,
goes
I'm
on.
like,
You're like,
I'm using it.
I'm ready to go home.
Tapping out here.
I'm tapping out.
So
So the question that I had for you that I was thinking about is, being a mom of many small children, and how do you make time for fostering friendships and relationships? What is it? As you look back in some of the things that you've done, what are some of the things that you did in order to foster friendships?
things that I did to foster friendships, that's a really good question. And before I answer that, as I think about different things that I did, I wanted to bring up, so I read a second article, and I'm just going to reference here because it kind of fits in. It was from The Atlantic, and it was written back, 2014. So this
Okay.
is an older article.
Pre-pandemics,
But it's the importance of sharing experiences. And the article was fascinating because what they did is a Harvard study on does an amazing experience supersede a mundane experience? And what they studied basically is that what they found out, so how they did it is they took Harvard students and they divided them into groups of 4, and they sent 3 of them to watch a really mundane, kind of stupid cartoon.
Okay.
But they did it together. And then they sent one of them in a room by that person's self, and they watched an amazing street magician perform some pretty incredible things in front of a very appreciative audience. So they got to watch a very unique and,
just one
and neat
person,
experience, but it was just one person.
Okay.
And then they brought them all back together in a room and basically said, okay, for the next few minutes, just, talk amongst yourselves, just chat. And then the researcher came back in 5 minutes later and gave them a survey on how do you feel, like kind of rate how you feel.
Yeah.
On a scale of 0 to 100. And do you feel happy? And do you feel included? And they said, let's see if I can find it. How do you feel during the interaction that took place on a scale of 100 between excluded and included? And it said, surprisingly, people who watched the extraordinary video felt worse than those who had watched the ordinary mundane cartoon by about 10 points. They also felt more excluded by 30 points on average. So what the study concluded is that the experience itself isn't what brings you joy and feel included. It's being able to share that experience with other people.
Wow.
And so they referenced a study that had done earlier that said, because one of the questions they said is, well, what about previous studies that said don't spend your time or your money on things, but spend your money on experiences? Is that still true? And what the study was concluding is that experiences, what makes an experience such an amazing experience is sharing it with other people. That if you have these extraordinary experiences, but you have no one to share them with, you actually feel less included and even excluded from your peer groups. And so as I was thinking about that in answering your question, what do you do to have friends? I thought it's an interesting thing because it's a two-prong thing that you're doing. On the one hand, I remember when I don't know how far we were into our marriage, but I just suddenly felt that it was really important that we take family vacations.
I remember this.
And it wasn't just like vacation to go visit family, like to grandma and grandpa's, but that we needed ourselves to take our own family vacations, and it needed to be some kind of vacation, like something, not just we're taking time off and we're gonna, not that those are bad, but that occasionally we needed to put effort into having our family vacation. And I remember thinking, I want to have memories and I want our kids to have memories of us doing things and going places and being together.
Right.
So I think that's the first prong of it, is that I do think there's times that's important that you make an effort to plan and save and do something extraordinary, with a little bit out of the ordinary with your kids.
Right.
But that the second prong after reading this study is recognizing that shared experiences are happening all the time around us. That anytime we're sharing experiences, we are building that relationship. And those experiences can be vacation and fun things together, but those experiences can also be hard things. You feel a closeness to people. My sister had a son pass away from cancer when he was little, and that shared experience bound our family together because it was hard. Right. And sharing that experience was hard. And I think recognizing, I remember one time watching, I am just going off here.
Go.
I remember one time watching a show about a couple that was driving home for Christmas, and it was them and their baby who was like about 10 months old. And I can't remember where they were going through, but they were driving through across Wyoming, and they were driving through a national park, and they took a wrong turn and they got lost in a national forest. Very lost. And it was snowy and their car broke down.
Well, they got stuck. It was so snowy. They
Yeah.
totally got stuck.
And they ended up being stuck and having to survive for like 10 days. That they were able to survive together. And it was an amazing, it's one of those, like amazing shows, survival shows, where they interviewed him and talked
Well,
about.
because they went away from the car. They found a cave somewhere. Were able to hunker down there. She was able to feed the baby because she had a little bit. It wasn't
And
a
they
baby
were,
necessarily anymore, but they had a little bit of breast milk left.
yeah,
Was able to feed him, and then he went out looking for help somewhere. I mean, they were
close to
they were
dying,
close to
and
death.
literally they were saved in the last moment.
Yeah.
And I just remember watching that show and thinking, wow, that was amazing. But then at the very end of the show, it talked about how they ended up getting divorced. And I remember thinking, even in the moment of watching that show, that I was like, that is so sad, because those three people are the only ones that understand what that experience was like. Like, they have this shared experience
Yeah.
that no one else would understand except them.
Right.
And how important it is that we do what we can to have these shared experiences, build our relationships, and not let the hard ones tear us apart, recognizing that the crucial thing is that these experiences are what bring us together, are what help us stay together.
So in answer to the question too, as you were describing that, I remember so many times where you, as a young mom with many children, would share experiences with other young moms that have children as well at the same age, and you share that together, and that binds you together as friends.
We did joy schools. We did play groups. We went to the swimming pool. We did library, where we would do library day and go to the library together. You do park days. I remember being a part of a group of moms that we would find a different park every week somewhere within a 40-minute drive.
For your mental
and we
health,
would go to the park
for
together.
how you felt, your mental health, and how you were, was that critical for you as far as to have those shared experiences?
Absolutely vital, especially as a mom of young children, where you can start to feel very isolated.
Yeah.
And it's super, super, super important and critical to your mental health as a mom with young children, to be around other moms that are doing it too, that you feel understood, that you're having shared experiences, both in the moment of the experience that you're sharing in that moment, but also in you're sharing with other people that are doing the same things you're doing, experiencing the same frustrations. And we had workout groups, like we would meet at the church or local area and do fitness together. I mean, just anything that we could do to be together, that our kids could be together and we could be together and have some time.
So through those years, you developed some friends that I would call casual friends, friends, and then close friends.
Yes.
And we were talking a little bit about this. How do you rate those? And you were mentioning something about how
I was listening.
What was it that you could go in the room of your house, or what was
that
about?
I was listening to a podcast one time that was talking about boundaries, and the woman was referencing that she had gone to a counselor that had talked to her about being able to set appropriate boundaries. And one of the things that I think she was struggling with was being a people pleaser and treating all people as equal friendships. And he was saying not all friendships are equal. And so he said, I want you to draw a picture of your house with all of the rooms in it, just a simple one, starting from the outside backyard, front yard, to the inside inner parts of your house. And then he said, think about how comfortable you are letting certain people into the different parts of your home.
So, like ones that you would keep out on the porch.
Ones that you would keep out on the porch.
Ones that you would allow into the front room only, and then into the family room.
Ones that you'd invite into the kitchen to cook with you. And then he brought it all the way to your bedroom. And he's like, obviously your bedroom, there's very few people that you invite into there. So in our relationships,
is there a friend outside of our marriage that you would allow into our bedroom?
Yes. I have a small, 3 friends that I would feel comfortable being like, okay, these are my messy bedroom friends. That's what I would call them. the friends that I would let into my bedroom, even if it's messy.
Yes.
That you're like, okay, that's how close we are.
Yeah.
But it's not very many.
Yeah.
It's not very many. But I've that obviously stuck with me in helping me recognize that I have lots of friends, but not every friend is a messy house friend.
Right, exactly. The one there's the friends that you clean up with, or you clean up the house before you allow
Before
in.
they come.
And
Yes.
then there's the ones that drop by and your
They'll
house is
drop
a
by
complete mess.
and you're totally fine
And you're
with
fine
it.
with it. You'll sit down right in the middle of it and be able to have a conversation and talk about whatever that goes on.
Yes. And I think I loved that when we talked last week with Mindy, we talked about boundaries and that how important boundaries are. And that was that same thing in friendships, recognizing the different boundaries that you have is also very important. And who crosses what boundaries, and not to let everybody cross all of them. And sometimes maybe the opposite, to recognize that, some of your boundaries have gates and you can let some people through.
So with that, I go back then to this study as far as well-being, depression, or let's see, predict loneliness, well-being, and depression 30 years later. It's important then to develop and establish friendships early in the moments when you don't think that you have time for it. That's critical to your success as an individual later on in life. And also, I look, for example, at my mom, who my dad died 2 years ago, and I look at her, and she has very close friends that she associates with, and she's very happy when she goes out with them. But these are friendships that she has cultivated over years.
Decades.
I mean, it has not just been a friend is a friend right now. It has been something she's cultivated over years and years. And I've seen many times where she has nothing to talk about with these people, and she'll call them.
They just call.
And they call.
Sometimes reminiscing about past shared experiences.
What's happening right now.
But even in the phone call, they're still having that shared experience.
Right.
And
I think going places with friends as well. I know that my parents traveled a lot with friends. We've traveled with friends that aren't necessarily family. And not that I'm saying that your family can't be your friends. What I look at is, I think that the more you establish these friendships, the greater the opportunity for happiness and success as you go on in life is with these established friendships.
Right. And that it doesn't, from the article that you were referencing, it's not just going to happen. That life can get busy, and there's times that creating friendships and shared experiences requires intentionality.
Yeah.
Even as we were talking and you were discussing that article, I thought about parents and how important it is being able to create one-on-one time with your kids, or time, and one-on-one time is maybe time that they're getting special attention because there's lots of kids in the family, and so you're just taking them, but also one-on-one in the sense of, as a parent, I'm choosing to give my attention to you right now.
Yeah.
Like, this is my time where I'm not trying to get something else done. I'm not, killing two birds with one stone. I'm really just spending time with you. And I know, as a mom, that is so crucial to me enjoying my children.
Yeah.
Is that when I set aside all of the things that I need to get done for a period of time and just be with them, that's when you see the little quirky things that they do, or you're able to see things differently. And that's when you really start to value and appreciate them as a person, not just as your child or someone you need to take care of or provide for or make sure they turn out a good citizen or, a contributing member of the community or the world, but as a person with their own interests. And
so I'm kind of having a little bit of a thought here as far as I'm thinking of myself, and as far as men versus women. I think of myself as a man establishing relationships and friendships, and it's a lot different than what it is for you.
I would agree.
I mean, as I look at the friendships that I've cultivated through the years, typically it's been bonding moments over athletic events of some sort, golf, maybe,
or
one
some
of those.
kind of physical thing. I think of camp, like
camping,
for our boys
hiking.
To bond. They had to go on like this big long camp out,
Exactly.
or this, like you said, a sport event.
So I think, for example, recently we moved from Georgia to Colorado, and we're moving now from Colorado to Utah. And the reason why we're doing that is because we were missing out on shared experiences with our children.
Mm-hmm.
We were a little bit jealous that there were some folks out there that were getting shared experiences and we were not.
I know. I'm like,
and you people
I'm not
know who
sharing
you are.
my children.
We'll share, but we got to be involved in the experience. And so we thought, you know what, we got to be in a place where we can have the mundane shared experiences where it's not something that's different. And we felt that way also with Chance, Bowen, and Lily,
Our youngest three
our
children.
youngest three children of 7, that we wanted them to have shared experiences with their older brothers and sisters.
Because that's also crucial for siblings to be friends, is to have positive shared experiences.
Yeah. So Breckenridge is one of those areas where we as a family go together and share an experience for a week at our timeshare in Breckenridge. And that creates this memorable moment where we can all relate back to it. I loved in the study where it talked about, because you can talk about it together.
Yes.
Whereas if it's just something that I do by myself, I can share with you what the experiences was, but we don't share the experience.
Right.
So, for example, when we climbed the 14er, that was a shared experience that all of us can relate to, and all the different things that we felt throughout it, getting really cold as we approached the top, realizing that there aren't porta potties on the trail. And how in the world do you find?
What do you do now?
What do you do now when you have got to go? But those were fun shared experiences. And so proximity and being close to each other is part of the shared experience. Now getting back to as a man thinking about it, you know what? I need to do a better job. I need to be more intentional about having shared experiences with people, because my shared experiences are all with individuals who we work together.
Mm.
And when that work relationship is done, in other words, we no longer work for the same company, does it carry on past that? Am I able to continue past that? And for the most part, no, it usually doesn't. I think back to the many different organizations that I worked for, and with the people that I worked with, I can think of their names, but I no longer have that relationship with them. In other words, I couldn't call them up out of the blue and say, "Hey, Randy, how have you been? It's so
Right.
good to." Maybe I could, but there's so many years of not cultivating shared experiences that I'm actually losing out on those friendships. And so, as we've been reading this, I'm thinking to myself, you know what? If Jamie, for whatever reason, was to pass away unexpectedly, and no, she's not, and she's in perfect health. We went on our 3-mile walk this morning. I would think to myself, what friends do I have that I would reach out to? And then I go to studies that say that's probably why men marry again so quickly, or more quickly than what a woman does, is because we don't have those shared friendships, because we haven't shared those experiences. Most of my experiences have been with you and with our children.
Right.
And the people who I work with, I love and have had shared experiences. But when that work relationship is over, do I continue those past that?
Right.
And I think, you know what? I need to do a better job. I need to be more intentional.
About finding and creating those shared experiences.
Just continuing to cultivate those experiences.
And I think,
because I think it comes a little bit more within your DNA. I won't say it's automatic, because I think you have to be intentional about it as well, because you can be about the busyness of all the things that you've got going on. But I think as far as ease of developing those friendships, it comes a little bit easier to you than it does to me. Whereas with me, I need to be very intentional about setting up those relationships and ensuring that I'm cultivating them.
Right. The thing I think, as you're talking, I'm like, there's a lot of factors that come into this, in the sense of your upbringing, how you feel about friendships, your personality, how, is it something that comes naturally to you and need, because I've watched different children, my own children, that I've watched them in social settings where I can tell this child has used up and they need a break. They need time to be alone. And she needs to be able to go to her room and everyone leave her be. She's not mad at you. She just needs a little time. And then I've watched another child during the pandemic slowly wither away because she was not with people. And so just recognizing and I think learning about yourself and realizing, okay, what do I need? But what I feel like the study was saying is that at some level, we all need friendships.
Yeah.
We all need those things. And it's not going to just happen by itself. And so I loved, as we're coming closer to what we do at the end, where we talk about how can streaking.
Yeah. So now, what's
help
the
this?
application?
What's
right.
the application?
So we've got the concepts.
We
and
know
what the
we need to
concepts
have
are.
friendships and shared experiences.
Now let's talk about the actual application.
How do you do that?
Yeah.
How do you have shared experiences?
Right.
And how could streaking help you with that? And so I had a couple that we have referenced a little bit, but I thought if you needed to have shared experiences with your family, or you have lots of children, maybe setting up a streak of once a week having one-on-one time with at least one child.
Right.
Do you know, intentional one-on-one time.
Yep.
And so that could be a streak that you could set up. For me, personally, as I was studying this and thinking about it today, I thought, I have such good friends in Georgia that I've loved, and I haven't been calling them as much. And I thought, I can't rest on all the experiences we had when we were together. I have to continue striving. And so this morning I was thinking, I'm like, could I set up a streak to phone a friend at least once a week?
Yeah.
Maybe someone that would be a daily thing, a streak, but just something where I'm like intentionally saying, okay, I need to take phoning a friend.
Reach out to at least one
friend weekly.
Yeah. I think
that's
so.
a better way to say it, because a phone could be,
I mean, it's just reach out. It's whatever it is. I'm going to reach out to at least one friend weekly.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons why social media with Facebook, Instagram, and others, when you see your friends posting, you feel like you're somewhat plugged into their life a little bit. It may not, you may not be there with them, but through the photographs, through what it is that they share, you share a little bit in that experience. So therefore, you can reach out to them and talk about it.
Yes, I thought about that too, because there's a lot of articles on not allowing digital experiences to replace personal in-person contact. And I thought, this is just like everything else in life. It requires that level of balance.
Yeah.
Because I love that I can go online, Instagram, Facebook, social media sites, and see what my friends from far away or from years ago are doing. And I can feel a level of connection to them because I at least know something that's going on in their life.
Right.
And then when we do connect personally, I have something to talk to them about.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, I saw this, and how are you doing with this?
Yeah.
So social media has this place where it keeps us connected, but was never meant to replace.
I think it was just meant to enhance.
It enhances our ability to stay connected. And I would say enhances our ability to stay connected with people that maybe we've lost connection with, that now we can, from years ago, you can be like, oh, we can reconnect because of that. But it's not meant to be the only connection.
Right. I think that is a good intentional streak for me, is to reach out to at least one friend that's not a family member. Because for me, it's easier to reach out to my family, even though I have two streaks that are specifically related to connect with at least one of my children daily. That's a daily one. And to contact at least one of my children daily. Both of those I see as differently. As contact, it's I'm thinking about you. Connect is let's share a little experience here. And it may be a micro experience, not a massive experience, but a micro experience where we talk through and look at and consider something that may be happening in current events or something that had happened that day. And it's a small connection to be able to make that happen. So that's with my children. What I thought about with more friends is to reach out to at least one friend weekly and be okay with having nothing to say. Be okay with just being like, I'm just checking in and I'm seeing how you're doing. And for those that are proximity, go to lunch, go to dinner, or do something together where you can share that experience together. And I thought, if I'm reaching out at least one time weekly, then when it comes available, we can actually do something together. They happen to be in town where we're living, and therefore we're going to go out and do something together, which may be some type of event, or it may be just sharing a meal, or it may be enjoying time together at your home or at their home.
Right.
But at least the reach out is the laughably small part. And that provides for the compound interest of when I call it the great convergence, when everything converges together and we can actually meet together.
Right.
Have you noticed that?
Yes, totally. And as you were talking too, I was thinking, because you said an event or going to dinner, and I thought, I feel like I've connected sometimes with driving people to the airport when they've come into town and they need a ride. And I'm like, yeah, I can get you a ride to the airport, which led me to thinking about service opportunities, that when we're serving other people, because a lot of the relationships I've created in friendships have been volunteer organizations, volunteering at the school or volunteering through church or volunteering through community things. You meet people and create those same shared experiences through those volunteer
Great point.
opportunities. And so there's just, I think that the intentionality of it, of being intentional about thinking about, I want to have a shared experience, because that does two things. It may alter, it creates a where you actually do something differently.
Right.
But it also can bring awareness to what you're already doing, where you're like, oh, I'm doing these things already. I can pay more attention that this is a shared experience, and it'll change the way that you feel about that thing that you need to be doing. Maybe it was an obligation before, and now it turns into an opportunity.
Yeah.
That I had a couple other streaks
Yeah,
that I
go
was
ahead.
thinking about.
Yeah.
Whenever we talk about these shared experiences, there's a couple people in my life that have been mentors of that. And I had talked about one earlier, that everything that we did, she found a way to make it special. And I thought, could you set a streak to celebrate something once a week?
Yeah.
Like, you just turn something into, we're going to celebrate that, to help recognize that it doesn't have to be big things that are celebrated, but that we can find small, simple ways to celebrate normal things as well. And doing little things that make that normal thing just a little bit more special.
Right.
And
celebrate dinner together.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Where you're like, we're going to
celebrate.
celebrate.
Go take
this.
one of your children to lunch out of school when school's in. Right now we're at summer.
Exactly.
Go to the swimming pool.
Go to the
have
swimming
a picnic.
pool.
Yesterday, so I captured you and Chance. You took a blanket out on the back lawn and you read together. That was one of your streaks, was to read with him, and he was doing his streaks as well. But that is a shared experience. Yep. I mean, that it was really cool.
And you know what's amazing is a lot of times for those shared experiences, they don't have to be all the time. Like, you don't have to do that same experience all the time.
Right.
Just sharing the experience has a lot of deposit in people's accounts.
Which is why I go back to, if you're reaching out at least one time weekly, then the convergence of events makes it to a place where you do have something that is unique and something that you share together that then you reminisce on. And it charges your relationship batteries for months. Because you think back to that moment when you said, remember when we did that? Wasn't that so much fun?
Yes.
And then if I'm reaching out, eventually, then I'll have the opportunity again to have something like that in my life.
Yep.
So where I wanted to end was a neat experience that Jamie and I had as we moved from Georgia to Colorado. We decided that we were going to take advantage of the full Colorado experience. What that meant was that we went ahead and for Christmas, way before Christmas and after Christmas, it was all about skiing. We were going to teach our younger children how to ski. And so we got epic passes.
Which was a big deal because we're a big family, and skiing is an expensive sport.
It was. And so we saved for it. We budgeted. We did everything to make this. And it created this really unique experience through all of the winter here. In fact, it's the first time where I was sad to see winter go.
Yeah.
I in the past could not wait for winter to be done, but I was sad to see winter go because we had shared this experience with our children, which was to drive up the mountain. We get up really early in the morning. I remember Chance. I mean, he would wake up 4:30. Man, that kid was like, I'm ready to go. They were up and going. I have never seen children of this age be excited to get in the car and to go, except with this. I mean, they were in the car and we'd go up there and we shared these wonderful, amazing experiences together with Mark, with Megan, with Lily, with Bowen, with Chance, with Ace. I mean, all of these were part of that. This shared experience is now just near and dear to my heart. And it was really interesting to see it go away. I mean, that we're done with it.
To be done skiing. As you were talking, I was thinking, because you were bringing up Chance and that first time that we went skiing, and it was it was hard because the skis were heavy for him and he was cold and he cried that first time. And then you had brought up the 14er, and that was also one of those experiences that we had some time that we spent crying. And I thought, isn't it interesting that I remember when you came in to me, when you very first thought about having a streak to floss your teeth.
Yeah.
And this sparkle in your eye because you'd had a perspective shift of, what if I change it from I have to floss my teeth to how many times can I do? Like, that perspective shift was invigorating and exciting because you were still doing the same thing, but you saw it in a completely different way. I thought about that as you were talking about Chance and skiing, and how having a perspective change can change your experience completely. So if we as parents and friends can look at these opportunities as shared experiences, like, that is the perspective change. It's not get to the top of the mountain by a certain time so that we can have a great ski day. Yes, we want that, but the whole process is part of this shared experience. And by changing that perspective, the ability to be able to be more patient with somebody who's new to something or is not aware of all the things that are going on, and be like, okay, this is a different experience, but we're sharing it together. I can be more patient in this moment because this is part of the shared experience.
Yeah.
And I remember that because when we were younger, you had taken one of our other children skiing, and he also had a hard time, and it was difficult. You weren't as patient.
No, I was not.
He wasn't as patient.
I wasn't. That's true.
But through the years and recognizing that this was a shared experience, being able to change that perspective changed the whole experience.
As we go forward now, thinking about application and streaks and streakers, as you think about this, please share with us what your thoughts are on how you can develop better relationships through streaks. Reaching out to at least one friend, and reaching out to at least one friend weekly,
yes.
Reaching out or connecting with a family member, because family members, we can grow apart from them too, and they're not friends anymore. And so being able to do all of these is really the opportunity for us to be able to look at it and say, I can intentionally increase my opportunity for happiness later in life through developing friendships. That's what I say. That's the invitation, is to set those streaks and make them happen. As always, you can download the Streaking app and track your streaks in there. You can see in the Streaking app, you can follow Jamie and see her streaks and where she's at with them. You can also follow me and many other streakers. It's so inspirational to be able to see where they are and what they're doing in order to improve the relationships in their life, to increase professional or physical or even spiritual strength. In any of those areas, you can see it. So download the Streaking app. That's at Google Play or at the Apple App Store. Also, the book is available and out there. And if you wouldn't mind downloading the book and reading about how you can start your own streaks. Also, if you wouldn't mind giving it a review, we'd appreciate that. And finally, you can go to our website, streakingmastery.com, to see all kinds of inspirational stories. You can see both the podcasts. By the way, this is our flagship podcast, which is Streaking. We also have a sister podcast, which is The Professional Streaker, which relates more to the business and professional life. But you can listen to that on a daily basis. That one we do daily, and I do that daily with Talon. But you can listen to that. All of those areas, and the reason we do all of this is because streaking has helped us to become the person we want to be. So, if you want to reach out to us, we always answer our emails. My email is Jeffrey, Jeffery, at streakingmastery.com.
I'm Jamie, Jami, at streakingmastery.com.
You can also follow us on
Instagram, Twitter, all of it, Facebook,
Pinterest,
TikTok, all of it.
All of the Twitters.
We're on all the Twitters.
You can follow us everywhere there. And we look forward to talking with you again. But until that time,
keep streaking.
It's the little things that make a better